Yes, indeed. Last Tuesday night, Mehmet faced off against Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman on the debate stage just 2 weeks before the state of Pennsylvania will declare the winner of the open Senate seat. Tonight, in a special in-between episode of the Chris Merlino Show, we're going to take a look at how it all shook out. Welcome to the home studio edition of the Chris Merlino Show. Good evening and welcome to this first of what hopefully will be many in-between episodes of the Chris Merlino Show. I tried this yesterday with disastrous results. Anybody who happened to catch that, apparently my laptop microphone crapped out on me. Either that or I don't know how to use a laptop microphone. But today that problem has been solved as I now sit behind this. See, that is the Chris Merlino Show Logitech Blue Yeti multi-pattern USB microphone. So hopefully we will not have any more embarrassing audio issues. So here we are, less than 2 weeks away from Election Day 2022. That's the day that's going to determine control of both houses of Congress, as well as a number of state gubernatorial seats. But tonight, I want to talk about one race in particular, and that's what these episodes are going to be. They're going to be shorter episodes, one topic or two, and just a little bit of a quick dive into each topic. So hopefully I can do a few a week just to keep us moving through the week and set us up for the shows, and also to touch on some things I wasn't able to cover in the shows. So this seat that is open in Pennsylvania is the one being vacated by retiring Republican Senator Pat Toomey. So both the Democrats and the Republicans had their primaries and put forth their candidates. So both of these are going to be one. The winner will be a freshman senator. This seat also represents the Democrats' best chance to maintain control of the balance of power in the Senate. This is a seat that obviously it's currently being held by a Republican. So if the Democrats can take control of this seat, it's that much more difficult for the Republicans to get control. It's a flip seat, and it's the one that I think that the Democrats have any chance at all. So it's a crucial race, and one that has the eyes of the nation on it for exactly that reason. Now, more specifically than the race itself, I talked about the race in broad terms in my show, and also even this earlier today on Veterans Matter. I want to talk about the debate last Tuesday night. The Senate candidates faced off in debate. It's the one debate that they've agreed to, and probably the only one that they're going to have. I think once you realize what went down in that debate, you'll understand why there's not going to be another one. I want to say just at the outset, I think just that this debate represents the most appalling and callous cynicism I've ever witnessed in anywhere in American politics. Here you have a man, John Fetterman, who he wants to be a United States senator. Now, putting aside his insane, borderline communist positions, setting all that aside, he had a stroke. Right, so to understand the brazen, despicable behavior at play here, you need to go all the way back to the Democrat primary, which was, I believe, back in May. The Friday night before the primary, John Fetterman had a stroke. All right, he almost died. The campaign, along with his family, withheld this information from the Pennsylvania voters until he secured the nomination. And then they squirreled him away for the duration of the campaign, kind of like the Democrats did with Biden during 2020 presidential campaign. Rarely came out, and the voters, though by then they knew he'd had a stroke, they were led to believe he was fine and just recovering, but he would have no lasting effects, is what they were told. They waited till early voting got underway before even agreeing to a debate. And now, after letting a lot of Pennsylvania voters cast ballots, they finally have a debate. So it's a sick and disgraceful. But you need to remember that the Democrats have no ethical framework to push back against this kind of behavior. They live in an ends justify the means kind of Soviet style worldview where whatever they have to do to remain in power and maintain their little fiefdoms, they're going to do, irrespective of what damage it does to the country, the system of elections, the people's trust in the system, and even the damage to their own candidates. If you want to talk about a threat to democracy, which the left is always doing, then this has to be one of the more disgraceful acts. I think second only to the Russian collusion hoax they ran against President Trump. So anyway, they finally get to debate night, and the Fetterman campaign managed to get the Oz campaign to agree to allow John Fetterman to have a closed caption system. So he has as a result of the stroke, has certain cognitive issues that needs to overcome. And one is he can't fully understand things that are being said to him audibly. So when you talk to him, he has difficulty understanding what's being said to him. It's not processing things properly as a result of the stroke. So what he wants, they say he can read fine. So if they could just have a screen where he is able to read what everybody is saying, then he'd be able to handle the debate. So the Oz campaign agreed to it. And so what they did was they had a big screen behind the moderators, which allowed him to read the questions off of it. And Oz could see it just as easily. So it was fair in that regard. Now, this is, as fair as it may have been, it's an unprecedented allowance. Clearly, the only reason someone would require this type of consideration is that they were unable to do what a debate participant needs to be able to do. You know, it's like you show up to swim the 100-meter freestyle relay with a broken arm. You know, and they're not going to let you swim. They're not going to put you on the team in that condition. It's not ableist to refuse to let you swim the race. It's basic common sense. It's also decency. We don't want you to hurt or humiliate yourself. So, you sit this one out because you can't do it. And remember, they knew his condition before the primary. So anyway, they put him on stage, and I just want you to we're going to start off with this clip. This is how he started. This was his opening remarks.
You're running for a seat that could decide the balance of power in Washington. What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody. I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania.
Now, he made a mistake that anyone could have made. We all fumble around and screw up words in public speaking. And you ask anybody who speaks in public, on the radio, whatever, everybody bumbles things. Everybody makes mistakes, get things backward, just says things a little bit wrong and a little bit awkwardly. But even your average man on the street who isn't a major public speaker would have acknowledged what had happened, corrected himself. Maybe even a decent public speaker might have made a joke about it. I think I would have made a joke about it and got everybody laughing, and then moved on. But Fetterman didn't do that. He just continued with this canned, I want to represent Pennsylvania. He wants to use Pennsylvania opening line. And soon after that, he was asked about vocational schools.
I think it's just the same way the university for degrees as well, too. Supporting that and partnering with the unions and making sure that vocation training are as affordable and providing the resources to make sure everyone has the opportunity. Going to college isn't the right choice for every person, but going to those kind of vocational schools, able to create a career to Wayne. Range a lot of very high salary, and again, supporting to reduce those costs are critical too.
Now, none of this makes any sense at all. Obviously, he's wandering around from thought to thought like an adolescent. You know what it reminds me of? You tell me if this makes sense. He sounds like, when I was growing up, he sounds like a hyperactive kid who's kind of caught red-handed doing something he wasn't supposed to do. And now he's trying to convince his parents he wasn't doing what they think he was doing. He's just vomiting every thought that pops into his head in a kind of rapid fire, stuttering mess. And nothing coherent actually comes out of his mouth. You know, if you live in Pennsylvania, you probably know how important fracking is to the state. Fracking is an industry that the state of Pennsylvania depends on for jobs, state economy, also energy. John Fetterman has been absolutely adamant that he is against fracking and has said so on the record a number of times. Now, here he is telling the voters of Pennsylvania that he now supports fracking.
You're saying tonight that you support fracking, that you've always supported fracking, but there is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all." So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand, and I do support fracking. It's about
right. And later they got onto the topic of college debt forgiveness, and he launches into a nonsensical series of words. Remember, the single most important thing a United States senator has to do is articulate and defend political positions. So the ability to communicate and comprehend is paramount. It's about the only thing. Here's Fetterman on college debt.
It's about supporting and helping, young earners, young students to give them a break.
Mr. Fetterman,
This is disgusting on several levels. All right. First off, Fetterman is clearly cognitively impaired. Okay. He has no business running for the United States Senate. His family, particularly his wife, for whatever reason, is not putting a stop to this, which, like the president's wife, Joe Biden, reeks of a egomaniacal thirst for power. This is something that I think, I get on one hand. I understand why people would want to continue the race, even though they're clearly not able to handle it. But this is something that is just, it's a humiliation. I would hope that if I was in a similar position, that my wife would do whatever she had to do to keep me from making a complete fool of myself on national television. His campaign staff, along with his family, they've withheld his medical status and his records from the voters of Pennsylvania, and he continues to not release his medical status or his medical records. He has some note from his doctor saying that he's physically able to serve, but that is not medical records. And if a Republican was in the same situation, they would be completely up in arms over the failure to release medical records. The Democrat Party hasn't stepped in to do anything about it either. And that no big surprise. They only care about winning the seat. But it's it really does say something about who they are, how they don't even care about the dignity of their own candidates. And the other thing to remember about this is that it's not even just the campaign and the party. NBC had done an interview with Fetterman where he clearly wasn't all there. And the interviewer said afterwards that he was not understanding everything, was not able to clearly articulate his points. It didn't seem like he was getting what the interviewer was asking him. And after that, that interviewer made those points live on NBC. Fetterman's wife, I think her name is Giselle, went out and demanded apology from the NBC News journalist. And then, of course, the Blue Check Brigade from Twitter all piled on, saying that those who had interactions with Fetterman said that he was sharp as a tack, that he was fine, and that he was fine with them, and that the interviewer must have had some problem, her own social issues, unable to carry on a conversation, because Fetterman was just fine. And what we're witnessing here is just a big giant cover up of this guy's medical condition. I think Fetterman's campaign, I think they expected him to be bad. I think they had to know that would be the case. I doubt they expected it to be this disastrous. Otherwise, I don't know why they wouldn't have just refused to debate at all. I mean, so many Democrat candidates have refused to hold debates against the Republican challengers. So this would have been a kind of a no-brainer if that option is on the table. I don't know why they didn't just refuse. Probably their numbers, as Oz closes and takes the lead, probably they thought, we got to get him out there to try to stop the bleeding. But I think that instead of stopping the bleeding, I think they opened up the wound even worse. So because right from his opening remarks, Fetterman was off the rails, couldn't get back on track. And a lot of people are using sports analogies of a team falling behind, making a lot of mistakes early on, and then falling behind and just being unable to recover. And there's some sense to that. But, in sports, there's timeouts, there's stoppages, halftime, between periods, just moments where the team can gather itself, put together a new plan, take a breath, go out and try to execute the new plan. To me, and maybe this is just the musician in me, but it felt a lot more to me like a band going into like their opening number, but someone or something was off. The drummer's out of time. Maybe the guitar player came in too early or too late, and now the whole thing is wonky. And for anybody who's been in a band, this is a nightmare. This is the kind of a worst case scenario, because it's so hard to pull it together in mid song. Everybody get back on the same page. It takes a lot of presence of mind and the ability to function at a high level, even under pressure. And Fetterman just is not up for that kind of recovery. So once it tanked off the rails and the road got bumpy, there was no recovering and there was no opportunity to reset. I have one more clip, and here Fetterman is talking about taxes.
Mr. Fetterman, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal. He has specifically said you have not paid your taxes and that you want to raise taxes on Americans. How do you respond?
Absolutely. The Oz rule, of course, is lying. It was helping two students 17 years ago to help them buy their own homes. They didn't pay the bills, and they got paid, and it has never been an issue in any of the campaign before. It was all about nonprofit.
I don't even think he answered her question. He launched into something about buying a house for some students, and I guess they didn't pay the taxes, something like that. The question was about him not paying his taxes. I don't know what he was getting at. And I'm not, again, all these clips that I played, they go to his inability to understand what is being said to him, and then his ability to respond in a coherent, articulate manner. And I think that the damage he's done to himself in this race is definitely going to come back to haunt him. Now, what's bizarre, and we talked about the cover up, but we also talked. He knew the one thing that I think they, again, going back to what I said before, I think they knew he was going to be bad. They fully expect the media to cover. They fully expect them to run out and carry the water for him. And the New York Times, a former newspaper, went and said this. He was also, this is a quote from the New York Times, he was also fluent enough over the course of the hour to present his democratic vision for a state that could determine control of the Senate. Mr. Fetterman was able to reel off some made-for-TV one-liners, though he had difficulty going into greater depth over the course of full 1-minute answers. And the Philadelphia Inquirer declared that Fetterman won the debate. Now, that was Will Bunch, the national columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, he's an idiot. That's all there is to say about that. That he won the debate is just ludicrous. But if you were ever wondering what a Soviet-style Pravda media would be like, this is it. This is it. This is what it looks like when a party controls the media for a nation, and it's what happens when the press has really just surrendered its freedom, or even taken the freedom and attached itself to the hip of a political party. And so this is, I think, one of many races that is going to turn heavily in the Republicans' favor. I think that Fetterman right now is in free fall. Oz is looking stronger and stronger. They're trying to take some of his, I think, his abortion comments and trying to use that against him. But I don't think it's going to work. I don't think there's enough people that care about abortion that will show up to vote for Fetterman just on that issue. So that's all I have for that. One thing I wanted to mention: don't forget to check out my main show, which is Wednesday nights at 7. That's where I go into a lot more detail, a lot more topics. These in between shows, I'm going to be doing as much as I can, and so hopefully, just randomly, I'll pop something if I come up with an idea. I'll just go live. So just be on the lookout. That's why you want to hit subscribe, and then also hit that notification bell, and that'll let you know whenever I do go live. Also, be great to see some comments in the chat, not just the chat, the live chat, but after the show, once the show publishes, be nice to see some chats in the chat column there. That creates activity. It gives me something to read because I can't see I don't watch the chat while I'm live. So if you put some chats in the chat column after the fact, then I can go back and if you say something that's worth mentioning, something I can respond to, maybe I respond to it in a later show or a later one of these episodes. So that will do it. And check out Veterans Matter. I was on Veterans Matter earlier today. If you get a chance to check that out. Also, don't forget, next Wednesday, 7 o'clock.
Shoot the